Welcome students. Welcome to the lecture number 6 of Python programming fundamentals. Okay. In the previous lecture we have discussed about the print function as well as the input function for taking the input from the user. Okay. And at last we have discussed about the print function. So in today's lecture I am telling you about the two options that are used with the print function, and these options are, the first option is basically end. Okay, so let me show you that what is basically this end option. Okay, and for that I have to open the Python interactive mode for you. Just wait, it is opening. Yes, now the Python interactive mode is open, and first I will open a file, new file. Okay, in that file I have written that print good morning. Okay, and immediately after this line I again write another print statement, and in that I write friends. Okay, so I have written these two statements. First one is a good morning, and another one is the friends. Okay, so let me see that what will be the output of these two statements. So when I press F5 for executing it, first it will ask me to save the code. Suppose I give the name of the code as dd. Okay, dd.y. So now the code is stored, and you can see that we are getting the answer as good morning, and then in the next line we are getting friends. Now what is basically the thing that we have to understand in this case is that I have written this print statement, print function. Okay, and within that print function I have written good morning, right? But when I write the second print statement, that is friend, why the friend word appears at the next line? Why not with the good morning? Okay, I have written, obviously someone told me that obviously you have written two print statement, that's why the output of the next print statement will be displayed from the next line. That's it. But why it is displayed from the next line? Okay, now I will tell you that what is the reason behind it. Okay, with every print function there is an end option associated with it. With every print function there is an end option associated with it, and the default value of the default value of end option, as I told you that end option is basically associated with every print statement, so that's why the default value of end option is /n. /n means, which means next line. Okay, but user can change end option value, that we will see. But over here what we have seen that the default value of end option is /n, which means next line. Okay, so we know that there is a end option, and that end option is associated with the print command, print function, and the default value of the end option is /n. What does mean by default value? Default value means that if we don't provide any value for the end option, then the end option will automatically takes a value that is /n, which means next line. Okay, so what will happen in our code? In this case, in the first line, okay, let me show you the execution also. Okay, so in the first line it shows the message good morning, right, at the output window. So good morning is shown at the output window. But with this print statement, as I told you, there is an end option associated with it, but in this statement we haven't given any value to the end option. Okay, we haven't given any value to the end option. That is why the end option takes the default value, and the default value is basically /n. /n means next line. That's why after printing the command, the end option will told you what you have to do at the end. Okay, so once the data is printed, then at the end the system has to use /n. /n means next line, because we haven't specified any value for the end option, so that's why end option takes the default value /n. So what happened after printing the statement, the end option will put /n at the end, due to which our cursor moves to the next line. Okay, and again in the second one, as we have written friends, okay, so he print the message friends, right? But in this print statement also there is no value associated with the end option. That's why after printing this result, the cursor moves to the next line, because default value of end in this statement is also /n. Okay, so you can observe that that's why we are getting the friend word at the other line. Okay, now let us use this end option with this. Suppose after writing this message I written equal comma end, because I have to specify the value for the end. So in that, suppose in spite of /n, I simply added a space. Okay, so now I have changed the default value of end option in the first print statement from /n to space. So what will happen when this line is printed? After printing this line, the print function at the end add a single space and then stops. Okay, what it will do, because we have already specified the value of end, that is space. So what it will do, first it will do its work, that is print the message good morning, and once the message is printed, then at the end of that message a space will be added, right, and the cursor remain at that line. So after that, when again the next print statement will execute, then what will happen? It will print the data from where the cursor is present. Okay, so you can see that, as I told you, that when the first line execute, it will print the message good morning, but once the data is printed, then the end option is given space. So at the end of this message, a space will be added rather than the next line indication. Okay, so after adding the space, the cursor will remain at that line. So when the next print statement is executed, it will print friend, okay, over there. But you know that in this print statement we haven't specified any end value, so that's why the cursor moved to the next line. Okay, so let us see that whether it works or not, right? Okay, let me remove it. So F5. So now you can see that we are getting the result at good morning friends, right? And suppose if you want to add end option with this also, so suppose we have put end option as, okay, exclamation mark. Okay, so I want that after printing the friend value, it will add exclamation mark at the end rather than the next line indication, right? So let us see that what will be the result. So now you can see that after good morning a space is included and the cursor will remain at that line. So the next print statement prints the friend on that, in that line, and at the end it will leave a exclamation mark, because in the second line and in the end option we have put exclamation mark over there. Okay, so I hope you understand that what is basically the work of end option associated with the print statement, okay, print function. Now let's move to the next thing, that obviously you can also see that we have the another thing is that user can change end option value. We have already changed end option value in both the print function. Okay, in the first print function we have changed the end value to space, and in the second print function we have changed the end value to exclamation mark. So let us do see one more option, that is sep. Sep is basically a separator, right? So let us see that what is basically the purpose of this separator function. Okay, all right, suppose after that I write another statement. Okay, and let me do one thing, I just remove the end option from there, right? Okay, so default end option is /n, so the cursor move to the next line, right? So I write print and how are you? Okay, and suppose I have taken a variable nm as and I put the name of this nm as Gundeep. Okay, So after that I want the how are you, and after that I want the message Gundeep will be printed. Okay, the name will be printed. So I just added the word NM after the how are you message, right? And then again I put comma, and then I started the double quotes, right? And then I am going to add some more text like how are you Gundeep, welcome to online classes. Okay, so this will be the message, right? So let us see that what will be the output of that statement. Obviously when we know that when we run this line, so first how are you message will be printed, and then after you the word Gundeep is printed, and then the welcome to online classes. But you can see that I'm not given any space after you. Okay, and no, I have also not given any space before the welcome word, right? So I hope that when we get the output of this command, that should be like this: how are you, and immediately after you I think that the Gundeep word will be added. Okay, because I haven't specified any space after the you word, and you can see that we haven't specified any space before the welcome word. So I hope the output will come like this. Okay, so how are you Gundeep, welcome to online classes, but according to me no space is because I haven't put any space between you and the nm variable, so I don't think that any space will be between these two words, and also I haven't put any space before the welcome word, so obviously no space will be added before the welcome word. So I think that my output will be in this manner. So let us see that what will be my output. Okay, so I simply press F5, and what is this? You can see that a space is already added between you and Gundeep, as well as between Gundeep and the welcome word. How this happens? I haven't specified any space in the print function, but over here in the result the space is already added. So how this happens? Actually, as I told you that there is an AND option associated with every print statement, print function. Similarly, there is one more function, that is SEP. Okay, SEP, SEP. SEP means basically separator. Okay, so whenever we show different types of values within the print function, okay, the SEP is basically a separator, and the default value of separator is basically a space. Okay, so what this space specify, whenever we print different types of values in the print function, then the print function will take the default value of the SEP option, that is space, and put that space between the different values provided in the print function. So you can see that in this we have the first value which is provided to us, that is how are you. So this is a string value, and then a variable nm value we have to show, and then again comma, and then the another line is that welcome to online classes. So in this case what we are going to print, first a message, then the value of a variable, and again the message. So three different things are printed according to this print function. So obviously the default value associated with the SEP option with this print is by default space. So that's why it automatically put a space between how are you and nm, that is Gundeep. So due to the SEP default value of the SEP, which is space, a space will be added as a separator between these two different options, between these two different values. Okay, and also nm, that is Gundeep, and welcome to online, these two are different data, so automatically a single space is also added between these two. Okay, so the default value of SEP option with the print function is by default a space, and this separator is placed between the different data shown through the print function. Okay, so that's why a space is added between how are you and Gundeep, and also between Gundeep and the welcome to online classes. Okay, but suppose if we want to change it, all right, we don't want to set a space, we want to put some other value. Then what can I do? Just put a comma, write the sep, and within the sep you just specify the separator character which you want to put. So suppose if I want space as a separator character in this print function. Okay, so what will happen, in spite of space, character will be added in between the different data which is printed through the print function. So let us see the result of this. Alright, so you can see that the answer is how are you, and after you, in spite of space, character is added, and then the Gundeep word will be printed, and after the Gundeep again character is printed. Why? In this case character is added because we have specified the value of sep as . Okay, so I hope you understand that what is the basic functionality of the AND option and the sep option, right? So the default value of the sep option is space. Okay, this is basically representing the space, which means a single blank space. Okay, a single space is the default value of sep, but also as I told you that user can change sep option value. So it's up to the user, that user can change the value of the sep option also. Okay, so these are the two options that are added with the print function. Okay, so after that we are going to start a new topic, that is debugging. All right, so let me first tell you what is basically a debugging. So before going to the concept of debugging, first we will know that what is basically a bug means. A bug means an error. Okay, and debugging means to find the error, right? So bug means error and debug means to find an error. So what is basically debugging? Since due to the error a program may not execute or may generate wrong output. Obviously, if there is a error in our program, or there is a mistake in our program, then obviously either our program will not run successfully, or if it may run successfully, then obviously it gives us a wrong output, right? So this may be the error. So the process of identifying, okay, and after that, after identifying the removing logical errors and runtime errors is called basically debugging. So what is basically debugging? Debugging is basically the process of identifying the errors as well as removing the errors from the program. So this process is basically debugging. Okay, so in order to remove the errors from the program, first we have to know that what types of errors are associated associated in our program. So what kind of errors may be present in our programs? So there are three varieties of error. The first one is basically the syntax error, then the logical error, and the third one is basically the runtime error. Okay, so these are the three different kind of errors which may arise in our program. So let us discuss these errors one by one. So the first error which we are going to discuss is basically a syntax error. Okay, so you know that for writing a particular program in Python, there are some rules and regulation. Okay, suppose in English, if your teacher told you to write a letter for this purpose, or write a notice for this purpose, so obviously there is a particular format for writing the letter. Okay, and if you don't write the letter according to that format, then what will happen? Obviously the teacher deduct your marks, or maybe he give you 0 in that question because you haven't followed the syntax, right? So similarly, when you write program in Python, so there are some rules and regulation for writing the program in the Python, and you have to follow those rules and regulation. And if you don't follow that rules and regulation, then the error which arises in your code comes under the category of syntax error. Okay, so you know that Python has rules that determine how a program is to be written. Obviously the Python has some rules, okay, so that how you are going to write program in Python, and that rules are called as syntax. Okay, now the interpreter can interpret a statement. Okay, you know that in Python there is a language translator named as interpreter. Okay, so obviously an interpreter will interpret the statement only when the statement is syntax wise correct. Okay, because obviously Python has to convert the statement into the machine code and then execute it. So if the statement has any syntax error, then why should interpreter convert it into machine code? Obviously it will not convert that statement into machine code if that statement has some syntax error. Okay, so the interpreter will interpret the statement only if it does not have any kind of syntax error with it. So the interpreter can interpret a statement of a program only if it is a syntactically correct. So it means if the statement does not have any syntax error, only then the interpreter can entertain that statement. Okay, or we can say that interpreter can execute that statement only if that statement does not contain any kind of syntax error. Okay, so what happens if a syntax error is present in the statement? Then if any syntax error is present, then what will happen? The interpreter will not interpret that statement. In spite of that, what the interpreter will do, the interpreter shows error message and stops the execution there. Such error need to be removed before execution of the program. So if those errors are not removed from our program, then obviously our program is not going to execute. So let me show you that how it basically happens. So let me open the file, open program, and okay, so I open this file, that is prog1 underscore cs11. okay, so okay, now you can see that in this file we have written a program. Okay, and this program is basically for finding the sum of two numbers. All right, you can see that this is the program for finding the sum of two numbers. Okay, so you know that we have written this program according to the syntax, right? But suppose if you can see that in this syntax, int is basically a function which, so we have to put the data which we want to provide to this int function within the brackets. Okay, so int function has the bracket, input function has the bracket, but suppose if I forget to add the extra bracket at the end of this statement, then what will happen? All right, I just forget to add an extra space, extra bracket at the end of this expression. Then what will happen if I run this program? So let us see that what will be the result. So when I run this code, then you can see that we are getting a syntax error over here. You can see that it is showing me a syntax error. Why syntax error? Because I have used a invalid syntax. So you can see that the interpreter will not execute the statement if there is a syntax error available in the code, right? And similarly over here you can see that the sum of a, and we know that when we show different types of values in the print, then we put comma between them. But suppose I forgot to put the comma, then what will happen? If I run the code, then again I got the syntax error. Okay, you can see that here I am getting the syntax error, that is invalid syntax. So it is clear to you that if you don't follow the rules laid down by the Python language for writing a program, then obviously the interpreter will not interpret your program because your program statement contains syntax error. Okay, so I hope you understand that what is basically the syntax error, right? So today we have covered about the syntax error. So today, now I'm ending this lecture right now. Okay, so today we have learned that there is an AND option as well as SEP option associated with the print function, right? and then we started the topic that is debugging. And debugging is basically the process of identifying the error in a program as well as removing that error from the program. And the types of error that can be shown in our program is basically three types. The first type is basically the syntax error, and the syntax error is basically the error in which while writing the program, if you don't obey the rules and regulation laid down by the Python language for writing a program. So if you don't follow those rules and regulation, then the error which is shown to you, that is basically the syntax error. Or we can say that if you don't follow the syntax of the Python programming language, then obviously the Python programming language will not allow your program to run, because you haven't write the code as per the specified syntax. Okay, so we are just ending this lecture right now. In the next lecture we will discuss the next other two types of errors and the topics which we are going to discuss later on. Okay, so that's all for today. Have a nice day. Thank you very much.